Time we talk about calculating the vast amounts of ingredients needed to create the great cookie baking weekend. So, if you watched the intro video, you know that we get together, we being my mom's side of the family, over a course of a weekend and we bake a lot of cookies. So, let's go into the details on how many is that really? Well, seems like a pretty simple recipe. This is my grandma's recipe, and we do the same recipe every year, the same type of sugar cookies, and then we frost them. So how do we get from this nice, easy recipe to this? A fridge full of cookie dough. This year, just this past weekend, December of 23, we made 25 batches of cookies. How did we know the number and the amount of ingredients we would need to be able to create this refrigerator full of cookie dough? Well, let's take this and say, okay, if this recipe gives us one batch of cookies, what about 25 batches? So let's go through. Butter, nice and easy. We'd need 25 pounds of butter. If every batch of cookies takes 2 cups of sugar, then for 25 batches, we need 50 cups. We need 75 eggs, 25 teaspoons of vanilla, and in the cookies, we can use an imitation vanilla. Flour at 6 cups per batch, we need 150 cups of flour and 25 teaspoons of salt. Top it all off with 25 teaspoons of baking soda. I would like to throw in that when you're going to roll out these cookies to cut out the shapes, you're probably going to need a little bit extra flour, but this is just for the cookies themselves. After we bake the cookies, we put that frosting on the top. Mwah! Fabulous. So this is the recipe of my mom's creating the frosting, and we got to have that. So this, again, nice and easy, one batch of frosting. How many batches does it take to frost 25 batches of cookies? Well, 21. It takes 21 batches of frosting. So you can see we have the different colors, and it's actually quite an undertaking in itself. Because of the amount of coloring that it takes for all of these, it takes a lot. So we are going to spend the next few minutes talking about the ingredients that go in. So we are going to start with, looks like the frosting and calculating the amount. So if it takes, 1.5 cups of Crisco per batch, and we made 21 batches. That's 31.5 cups of Crisco. Whoa. And the salt, we use 1/4 teaspoon of salt times 21 batches, so we need 5.25 teaspoon of salt. The vanilla. Now the vanilla inside of the frosting should be white vanilla. If you use imitation or brown vanilla, it'll taint the color of the frosting, and that's not what we want. So we use white vanilla, 2 teaspoons. We're gonna need roughly 42 teaspoons. We need 2 pounds of powdered sugar per batch. Now generally powdered sugar, you can buy those in 32-ounce bags, which is 2 pounds. So we're gonna need 42 pounds or 21 of those bags. Now for milk, we're going to need 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup. It really depends on the color. You start with 1/2 cup and you might add a little bit more depending on how soft you want it. So we're going to need something in the range of 10.5 to 15 3/4 cup. I generally err on the side of caution. So we're going to estimate all of our things for 15 3/4 cup. That way we make sure to have enough. The last thing you want to do on baking weekend is run out of an ingredient because it throws everything off. So, this is all great and all. If we're going to make 25 batches of cookies and 21 batches of frosting, how much does this cost? Because that's something that nobody really thinks about, right? All of these things just show up, and you don't think about what was the grocery bill to make all of these Christmas cookies that my family then gives away over the course of the holiday season. So let's calculate the cost. Now, we estimated store brand on sale if possible, but we know that's not always the case. So back to the cookies. Generally, butter runs about $4.29 a pound. Sugar is about $4.49 for a 4-pound bag. Eggs, generally $2.19 for 12 extra large white eggs. Imitation vanilla for the cookies is $1.46 for an 8-ounce bottle. Flour, we're going to go with about $2.50 for a 5-pound bag. Salt is generally about 79 cents for 26-ounce tub. And then baking soda, $1.29 for a 16-ounce box. At this point, I hope you're thinking, you just talked about flour and sugar in terms of pounds, but we need cups. So how do we figure that out? And that's where we get into some conversion factors. So let's talk about butter. We're going to go item by item. So with the butter, we know that butter, if you look at those boxes of butter, that's 1 pound. So 4 sticks of butter gives us a pound. So if I need 25 pounds of butter, that means I need 25 of those, and each one of them is $4.29. So just for the butter, it's going to cost me a little over $107 in butter. It's a lot of butter. Sugar. We need $4.49 for a 4-pound bag. Now, we know that we're going to start with 50 cups of sugar. Now, 1 cup is, these are estimates, 7.1 ounces. There are 16 ounces in a pound, and there are 4 pounds in a bag of sugar. So you can see our dimensional analysis, which means we need roughly 5.5 bags of sugar. Now, you cannot buy a half bag of sugar at the grocery, so we need to round up. We're going to buy 6 bags. At $4.49 a bag, it's going to cost us $26.94 for sugar. Great. Eggs, $2.19 per dozen. Well, if I need 75 eggs, we know there are 12 eggs in 1 dozen, so I need 6.25 dozen eggs. Again, you got to buy them by the whole dozen, so I need to round up to 7. 7 dozen at $2.19 per dozen, it's going to cost me a little over $15 for eggs. Moving on to vanilla. Now, vanilla, we need 25 teaspoons. 6 teaspoons is roughly 1 fluid ounce. This is if our conversions are correct here, which means we need roughly 4.2 fluid ounces. That is less than a container. Container is 8 ounces. So we're going to buy 1 container for $1.46. For flour, I need 150 cups. Now there, you'll see that little snowflake star there because again, if you're going to roll these out, you're going to need flour to put down. You're going to have flour to keep them flat. So you're going to need more than just the 150 cups. But for baking purposes, we got to change our cups to ounces. So 1 cup is roughly 4.25 ounce. 16 ounces are in a pound. We need just shy of 40 pounds of flour. Flour comes in 5-pound bags. So we need 7.97 bags of flour. Again, we need whole bags. So we round up 8 bags at $2.50 per bag. We're going to spend $20 on flour. Salt, 25 teaspoons. 1 teaspoon is roughly 0.167 ounces. So we need about 4.2 ounces. This is very similar to vanilla. But we need 1 container of salt, and we're going to have leftovers, which is great. So 79 cents for salt. Baking soda, same idea. We need 1 container of baking soda for $1.29. So we have our total cost for cookies, butter, sugar, eggs, vanilla, flour, salt, and baking soda. To bake the cookies, we're going to need ingredients that total roughly $173.06. But that's just the cookies. Now we got to do the same thing for the frosting. We always use name brand Crisco shortening. That's roughly $7.99 for a 48-ounce container. We need salt. We need white vanilla, which is more expensive than imitation vanilla. But to keep the coloring and the flavor of the frosting, white vanilla is preferred. You can use the other one. It's not horrible. It just taints the color. Powdered sugar, roughly $2 for a 32 ounce, which is 2 pounds. Milk, we're going to go $2.59 a gallon. All right, so let's break it down just like we did with the cookies. So we know Crisco, we need 31.5 cups. There are 8 ounces in 1 cup, which means we need 252 ounces of Crisco. 1 container is 48 ounces, so we need roughly 5.25 containers. Round up, 6 containers at $7.99 per, means we're going to spend almost $48 on Crisco. Salt. We don't need a ton of salt, just 5.25 teaspoons, which means we're going to have plenty left over. We need less than an ounce. So really, We could use the extra salt from the cookies if we wanted to, but if we're thinking just in general, we would need a container of salt. The white vanilla. We need 42 teaspoons, which is roughly 7 fluid ounces. So if you buy an 11-ounce container, that would be enough to get you through, and that would get our $10.19 for vanilla. Some of the vanillas come in different sizes, so make sure you're paying attention. If you're buying a 5-ounce bottle, you're going to need 2 of those because you do need 7 ounces for the 21 batches of frosting we're making here. For powdered sugar, 32-ounce bag is a 2-pound bag. So if I need 42 pounds at $2 for a 2-pound bag, I'm going to spend $42 on powdered sugar. And milk is $2.59 a gallon. This star here because, again, sometimes we're going to add a little bit more depending on if you need to soften it up or anything like that. But we are going to estimate high at 15.75 cups. We change cups to pints, pints to quarts, and quarts to gallons. So to make 21 batches of frosting, estimating high on the milk, we need just shy of a gallon. So $2.59 for gas, or for gas, excuse me, $2.59 for a gallon of milk. That's using almost an entire gallon for frosting. That's a lot of milk. All right, so let's talk total cost for the frosting. We've got our Crisco, our salt, our white vanilla, our powdered sugar, and our milk for a total of $103.51. So the overall cost, the cookies ingredients, the frosting ingredients, putting that together, $276.57 for 25 batches of cookies, 21 batches of frosting. But the one thing we did not throw in here, which is my fault, is the coloring. To color all of this frosting, you have to buy these little containers. So really, we should add that in here. We should. The red takes 3 bottles, and each one of those bottles is a couple of dollars. So we're going to have an additional cost to the frosting if you want to color other than white for those colors. So $276.57 is the low end of the cost of ingredients for this cookie weekend that we just finished here this past weekend. So it's really, really intense and a little bit more expensive than you might think to make a lot of cookies. But here's video 2, just talking about the ingredients and the cost. We're going to have some more videos that go into the other pieces of the Great Cookie Weekend and the math that is involved. Thank you for Math in the Wild Cookie Weekend video 2.